especially police and others. Different countries. And that's why we're having this conversation. So, now, let me get to my topic. The topic is going to be something about how to handle power drunk law enforcement officers, how to deal with power drunk law enforcement officers. And this is going to be practical, it's going to be relatable, and we get to have fun as we have this conversation. So, I love storytelling. Let me start with a story. It's the story of Jack. Jack found that his bosom friend was arrested earlier in the day. And so Jack, having heard this, decided to rush to that office where his friend was locked up. And on getting there, he has to know what the problem was. He was being interviewed by a gentle lady, obviously an officer. And then as he was listening and then making his narrative that, oh, I don't know my friend, this guy is my friend, this and that. Then a senior officer passed by, overheard him saying the person locked up in custody happened to be his friend, and said, oh, you are a criminal's friend. Is it both of you that have been stealing together? And I just told the other officer, lock him up. And Jack was short of words and was like, I'm sorry. But guys, what do you think of this situation? It might have happened to you before, really, or you know somebody that has experienced something of this nature before, where it's just like innocent passerby now being roped into the whole thing that transpired. But this is the reality of many people out there, many people in the society. Many people have lost their life by just being victim of circumstance where they were unfortunate, or unfortunately at that time they were at a wrong place where they shouldn't have been, and they were only trying to help out. We've had to handle cases where something similar occurred, and it's born out of the experience that we're having this conversation today. So some of these things that we are going to be encouraging you on, they're going to look relatively new to you, and some of them may not entirely be new, and some of them may be bitter truth to swallow. And we are going to be referring to at least two adages in this conversation. So I would look forward to your thought, and get into the comment box. Let's get your questions as we have the conversation rolling. I hope you are set for this. Remember to share this experience, share this video. This is how you get to help other people to learn. So just take a second, click on that button, share it with friends, and let people learn from you. All right, so adage number one. There is this proverb that says, if a madman takes your clothes, don't run after him naked. Who wants to interpret that for us in the comment box? I have a friend here that might try to interpret it in broken. He say, when mad person carry a clothes, come out they run. Make una no follow am wrong way you never wear another cloth too. But the challenge is when that happens, it tends to confuse everyone, because people will begin to think that really, who is really mad here? Or they may even miss the mad person for the other person that was running after the mad person. And so it's the first point of call. They need to understand that the first rule when you are dealing with power drunk officers is not to get emotionally entangled with them at that their level. One of those things that we tell people is human rights are relevant when there is life. I remember Fela sang a song. Say government no fit dash me my right na my right. But of course it's true. Government cannot dash you your right. But those rights, they are relevant when you are alive to enjoy them. So, bitter pill number 1 is that you have to save yourself first. Wisdom is profitable. Save yourself first. So, don't get physical with a law enforcement officer. By the way, you may want to know this point that in most cases, enforcement officers that are out there, the law that establishes their office gives them power against cases of assault. So we've seen people, and I'm going to share this with you, one of these kind of people that happened to fall victim. Now there was a case of somebody that we know who was on the steering and was driving and was stopped by law enforcement personnel, and they started dragging the wheel. And at the end of the day, while they were dragging the wheel, even though without any intention to injure the officer, the steering, the car rolled, the tire rolled over the leg of the officer. And then eventually, because of that, so attention moved from whatever caused all the dragging of steering, and then attention now moved to the injured officer. It was the gentleman on the steering was locked up. Not just locked up, he was charged summarily, immediately. Not just that, he was even made to pay hospital bill for the officer that was injured. You see, the point is this. He might have been on his right at the time this thing happened, but he joined issues and then allowed himself to be led to the slaughter, where the whole conversation was no longer about whether it was right in the first place for the officer to have dragged steering with a private citizen, to becoming whether a private citizen has a right to assault an officer. And you need to hear all the grammar. Assaulted an officer on uniform. So these are practical things, and that's why I know that this conversation is going to be very interesting for you, and I trust you're having fun on it. Remember to share. Keep sharing. Share on WhatsApp, share on Instagram, share on YouTube, share on Facebook, share on LinkedIn. Anywhere you are, just share this thing. You might even have people that have experienced stuff before. Share your experience. Let's learn. One of those things that happened recently, for instance, was the case of a lawyer, a learned colleague, who visited an agency to represent his client. And one of the senior officers just ordered all the boys that they should lock him up. So these are practical things that, happen. So we then move to the question. Now, if we are telling you that don't get physical with an officer of the law, what is the right thing to do? That's what we want to talk about next. So first thing is you have to stay calm. I want you to type it in the comment box. Stay calm. You have to stay calm. Is the first thing. And you see, when an officer is with ammunition, with gun, you have to be very careful. And any excuse can be given. Unfortunately, defense can come up when the person, the subject of the harassment, is still alive to testify. Any excuse can be given. And I'm saying this over and over. We've seen cases of officers abusing the opportunity of using their weapon. We've seen many people die because of this kind of situation. So you need to stay calm. Human rights is relevant when there is life. there's something you shouldn't forget from this conversation. Hold on to that. Human rights is relevant when there is life. It's relevant when there is life. So you need to stay calm. And when you are asked questions, you say, under the law, you need to also know that you have your right to remain silent. It's not everybody that understands, it's not everybody that knows this, that they have a right to answer or not to answer a question posed to them by an officer of the law. Neither is it everyone that understands that they have a right to choose the kind of question they respond to. So, if you are asked introductory questions, you may answer. But when you are asked questions that are incriminating, I would beg of you, choose to exercise your right to be what? Firm. Clip them out. Choose to exercise your right to remain silent. For instance, let's say that in a stop and search situation, you got to a bus stop, and then some officers waved you down and then asked you, were you at the scene of crime that happened at Ojuelegba yesterday? Your face resembles the person that I saw there. You may have the tendency to, depending on your emotional status as a person, you may have the tendency to want to do a self-defense. And that can be incriminating even though you don't know anything about it. You may have a tendency to become furious and angry at that kind of question. That also can lead you into some unnecessary trouble. So wisdom is profitable. And sometimes choosing to just stay calm and know what question to respond to, what question not to respond to, I just help you. And this is especially helpful when you have, let's say you were invited to the agency's office and you were told to write a statement. I mean, this will be coming new to some of you. It's not by force for you to write a statement. You could insist that you don't want to say anything until you see your lawyer. So, especially when you are led, when you are dragged to an agency, to their office, it's not a must that you respond to questions, neither is it a must that you write statements. You can simply and politely request to see your lawyer. Politely request. It's not just your lawyer now. It doesn't have to be your lawyer, but your lawyer is your best bet at that time. But again, you can request for at least someone else, maybe a family member or something, and a mature person to be available there so that you are not ambushed, so that you are not harassed against your will. And we've seen this play out, but I want to tell you something. It is better you insist on your rights than for you to be co-opted into things you didn't know anything about. So it's safer for you. So if you're stopped, or let's say you meet an officer and you are being harassed, remember I said stay calm. Remember I said you may choose not to respond to certain questions. Introductory questions you may respond. But while you are doing all of this, in most cases, if you look to the badge of the officer, you are likely to see the name of the officer. You are most likely to also see the service number of the officer. These are things you can do. These are things you can pick. Let me give you a hack, even though this is going live on air. So one of those things you can always do to officers that stop you on the road. The moment they stop you, look immediately to their chest. It signals something to them, and they don't want to joke with you. Because it's a code. It's a hack. The moment you do that, they know that you know something about your right. And they know that they really cannot handle you anyhow. And they don't know who you are, by the way. So when you look to their chest and you do all of that, as you greet them politely, it signals something in them, and the chances are they don't want to joke with you as well. So no matter how distracted you are, always make it a point of call to check what is embossed in that crest. The name. Sometimes some of these officers will wear things that are camouflages or covers all of these things. But at that period, with this kind of conversation we're having today, it begins to make sense to you. The more you practice how to handle these situations, the better you get at it. And just for your own sake as well, for knowledge sake, you may pick interest in understanding the hierarchy of different law enforcement agencies, beginning with the Nigerian police. Understand the hierarchy: constable, sergeant, all of those things. Understand the hierarchy. When you understand their language, it becomes difficult for you to be handled anyhow. Understand the hierarchy for the military system. Understand the hierarchy even for for kick against the discipline, for LASMA, for everybody. Understand the hierarchy. It gives you an advantage. Be interested in understanding how the hierarchy works, because it will interest you one day to just mention that, Sergeant, how are you? When you mention Sergeant, how are you, the person wants to look at you and say, it's like you know something. Understand all the stars and the crest and all of those things. When you pick interest in all of these things, there are practical things you can do that makes the officers to think twice and not harass you anyhow. Let me gist you again about the story of another of our clients who, and I love that he got it right. There was a day he was stopped and assaulted, and then his plate numbers were removed from the car, and we took up the matter. We approached the court of law, challenging that, look, this person was stopped, all of this, and he was given a fine. And they gave him all the things. And this happens to some of you. You may be able to relate with this thing I'm saying. Some of you have been to the airport before where you didn't even park. You were still offloading your items, and then somebody just came, clammed the tires, and then they gave you a fine. Look, all of these things are things that you can actually challenge. And so when people talk about the court of law and say, may we not, no. When they pray that prayer, close one eye and open the other and question that prayer. Because ignorance sometimes kills more than diseases. So the point is, back to the gist. We went to the court of law under a month. Brilliant judge. We challenged it that, look, our client has a constitutional right. You can't just give him a summary judgment. You didn't try him. You have not found him guilty. And you sentenced him already. You slammed him with some amount to go and pay as fine. That means you found him guilty. And what still? It's the same agency that is slamming him that is collecting the money. You cannot be the judge and the prosecutor in your own case. And these are standard principles of the law. So with this, we were able to get the court to compel the agency to release his plate numbers. And fine was also given, slammed on them, compensation for all the harassment. And this can also be you, but you must master how to manage and handle officers properly. There's this second adage I'm going to share with you. The adage says, he who fights and run away lives to fight another day. Look, Yoruba will say mojamosa or something. Like, the fact that you are running away today doesn't mean you are a weakling. Wisdom is profitable. So you cannot be dragging with an armed officer. You cannot be dragging with an officer that is obviously abusing his or her position. And you say because you know the law, you know your right, you have to learn to run away and come back to fight for your rights next time. I hope you're gaining something in this conversation. I hope it's been interesting for you. And so I'll just touch on situations that could happen. So if you're driving, you are stopped, remember to follow these principles. Be polite. If you ask questions, respond to the ones you can. Those that you are not sure how to respond, exercise your right to be silent. And if you ask incriminating questions, you don't have to answer. You do not have to answer. And if you are stopped for a search on your body, as much as possible, if it is realistic, ensure that there is a third party that is there. So that, in those days, we will use a language that they should not go and carry somebody with Rogers. Come along, Koyom or Rogers. So you have to try to get somebody around to be a part and oversee. It's only in movies that I've seen this anyway, where while doing all the search, they just put weed or put something in the boy. You're under arrest. But this may be happening in real life. I'm not sure. I've not seen one. But then you have to be cautious. You have to be careful. And if your car has to be searched, don't be too high-headed, FT-headed, such that you sit in your car and you just open the boot, tell them, go and search. And just because you think you are sure of yourself that you don't have any incriminating substance, who says that the person searching cannot put one in the car? So you must actively oversee, supervise all of this search to ensure that you are not unduly incriminated. And if you are compelled to be at the agency, stay calm. Don't begin to tremble. We have this client of ours that recently was invited by one of the law enforcement agencies, and the guy, being an hypertensive person, was already purging. And you're saying stuff like, I've never been invited all my life that I've been doing business. And I heard this invitation. He said his BP just shoot up and he started purging. And that makes you laugh, right? I mean, I couldn't also help but laugh on the set. So things are happening. I don't know what your experience has been. I hope you're having fun on this conversation. So stay calm. The worst case, cells are not made for animals. So nothing to worry about, really. Just ensure that you do a tidy job so that when your lawyer has to step in, it's easy for the lawyer to pick it up from there without you having gone to incriminate yourself. So if you are invited to the agency, stay calm. Stay calm. Nothing to worry about, right? You may choose to exercise your right to be silent until you see your lawyer. You should actually ask to see your lawyer as much as possible. Ask to see your lawyer. Let things happen while your lawyer is also there. And ensure that you have legal representation that has an understanding of the law when it comes to dealing with law enforcement agencies. And finally, I cannot overemphasize, the place of your lawyer is very important. The place of your lawyer is very important. If riot is going on, insurrection, mutiny or something, please run away. Stay away from there. Because under the law enforcement agencies, some law enforcement agencies have the authority, are empowered to use force. And the use of force includes weapons, gun, ammunition. So don't make it a habit that some people are embarking on riot and you wanted to watch a movie. The movie you didn't watch, that you didn't see on Netflix, you saw it live. You wanted to be a part of it. that could lead to a situation that you did not imagine for yourself. So run away from it. And once again, involve your lawyer as soon as possible. Don't joke with the place of engaging your lawyer soon enough. I hope you've been able to pick things from this conversation today. My name remains Eyitayo Ogunyemi, and if you are here to follow us, I need you to click that button now, follow us, and stay tuned so that anytime we go live, you can always join us. Till we come your way again, we'll be having another session tomorrow on the same channel. Please ensure to follow us so that you can be notified when we are going live. Thank you for this session.